Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webcast, Top Ways to Simplify Insurance Operations and Streamline Document Workflows. We're very excited to have all of you on board, and we appreciate your taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us. My name is Anne-Marie Cochia, Director of Marketing at Canon Business Process Services, and I'll be your moderator for today's webcast. Before we get started, I do have a few housekeeping notes. To eliminate background noise, all participants have been muted. You will only be able to hear our presenters speak. If you'd like to ask us a question, you may do so at any time by clicking the chat button on your WebEx dashboard on the right side of your screen. Type your question, click send, and we'll try to address your question before the end of the session today. Because we only have a limited time, we do apologize in advance if we are unable to address your question online, but we'll be sure to follow up on any unanswered questions after the program. Lastly, we will be sharing an archived version of today's webcast after the session is complete. Okay, so we'll get started here. As part of our insurance webcast series on optimizing workflow processes, today we're talking about simplifying operations. In particular, we'll first discuss industry trends and then document process challenges, how to go about simplifying your insurance operations, streamlining document workflow, and then a short segment on case management. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our esteemed panelists for today. First, I'd like to introduce Vince Price from IBM. Vince is a seasoned insurance professional with more than 20 years of experience managing and structuring claims services for Fortune 500 companies. Vince has specific claims handling expertise in all lines with an emphasis on workers' compensation, general liability, products liability, and auto. Second, I'd like to introduce James Allen. James is a professional solutions executive here at Canon Business Process Services. James has been assisting clients for more than 15 years on the right mix of technology, process, and resources to improve operations and deliver savings. James has a technical background in enterprise content management and business process management. Vince and James, we're so glad to have you on board today, and we thank you for carving out this time to share your expertise.
Well, thank you, Anne-Marie. This is Vincent Price from IBM.
It's James Allen from Canon Business Process Services.
Okay, well, now that we've had our quick introductions, Vince, I'd like to hand it over to you to walk us through the latest industry trends.
Thank you. From an industry perspective, we at IBM, and most likely most of you on the telephone or the webcast today, probably recognize there are three distinct driving forces or focus areas for insurance companies today. Obviously, number one is optimizing costs and profitability with an eye to improving bottom line performance. And secondly, how do we best understand the portfolio risk that we employ today, whether it's in workers' compensation, general liability, overall risk profiles within our organization. And thirdly, how does this help us improve our business performance? So insurance, really, we're trying to, thank you. So there's three industry shifts we've identified. There's increasing industry focus on significant investment in analytics. There are three areas where companies today have been successful. We found in our studies that 63 to 64% of insurance executives have found that investments in analytics are providing a significant return on investment for them in better managing their organizations. Obviously, this still has a focus on customer centricity, but we're also seeing increased focus on operational issues, operational topics. And thirdly, bringing together, integrating all of these capabilities in a digital enterprise. Now, there are a number of insurance initiatives or insurance initiatives that we may think about today. So as you think about your particular company or your particular department or focus area, then there may be various entry points or pain points, if you like, that we are constantly dealing with on a day-to-day basis. These could be operational issues, such as in underwriting processing, new business processing. They could be in claims management, management of discrete or complementary claim services such as fraud, investigation, excess reporting, and so forth. And also, we may be facing challenges in our distribution networks, the interaction with agents and brokers and other intermediaries in delivering our products effectively and or managing our relationships with these third parties in the most effective fashion. And finally, of course, we continue to have a focus on customer service, bringing together, if you like, multi-channel experience for our customers today, whether they are in a more direct engagement fashion or through a mobile experience. And of course, dovetailing into this is managing our new product development, remaining competitive within the industry. So these are multiple potential entry points or multiple potential points of focus for an insurance company today, whether it's property and casualty or life and annuity or some supplemental disability carriers and so forth. So think about these particular areas as we go through the webcast today and how what James and I will be talking about resonate within your organization.
So that brings us to our first poll question, and we'd very much like to hear from you. For your organization, which of the following are your biggest challenges today? Is it number one, customer retention? Is it cumbersome underwriting processes, efficient claims processing, product innovation, or would you say it's all of the above? Please just take a moment. We'll wait a few seconds for you to submit your response, and then we'll move forward. Okay, we'll wait a few seconds more. I guess we shouldn't be too surprised. Okay, so customer retention, I'm seeing we're at 33%. Cumbersome underwriting, I'm not seeing any responses there. Efficient claims processing, we're at 11%. Product innovation, we're at 11%. And all of the above, 33%. So, Vince, what do you think about that? I'm seeing all of the above here, as well as that first response on customer.
Well, I guess it's not surprising, really. Obviously, some of you may be coming from different departments, so you only have insight into a particular slice of your organization. But what we're seeing here in this particular survey, again, is what we kind of expected. Customer retention, obviously, it's easier to keep a dollar, or should be easier to keep a dollar than find a new one. So effectively, interacting with your customer base is very critical, and remaining competitive. In today's environment, particularly in personal lines, we see increasing pressures for many innovative carriers out there that are looking for or delivering different ways of interaction with the customer. So this is important, and again, not surprising. The other, all of the above, yes, that makes a lot of sense. And I guess nobody has an underwriting need at this particular point, so let's carry on with the next slide, if we may. So essentially, just to wrap, insurance companies are focused in three areas, okay? Continue focus on the customer, delivering and innovative, streamlining their operations, and optimization of risk management. And by risk management here, I'm again talking about understanding the financial risk of the contracts that you write or underwrite within your organization. So we take it one more step further. Beyond this, we as an industry need to continue to focus on capturing the right and relevant information. We're talking here about structured and unstructured content, understanding, evaluating, and acting upon this information. Adding to that the component of collaboration, enabling our participants and constituents to interact with each other to drive the right decisions and focus on outcomes. So the increased focus going forward is not just on output, but outcomes. Think about, in this particular example, your claims processing. Any organization, the claims processing environment is very complex. Multiple interactions with multiple parties dependent upon multiple streams of information and data. In claims, in particular, whether it's for first dose of loss intake or first report of injury, we are having to consume significant amounts of information. Take, for example, workers' compensation. Volumes of medical information, legal documents, processing, rehabilitation, and we can continue. Adjusters and examiners, for example, have to be able to better manage this information. We're talking about unstructured in a most efficient fashion. The process is further complicated by unstructured workflows in claims, as again an example. Depending on a particular investigative track or a piece of information, the adjuster or examiner may have to take a different approach. It may change their evaluation of the exposure and or impact the ultimate resolution. So again, just to summarize, claims processing is very complex. We could look at any other parts of the organization and you would probably find the same situation. And policy servicing and customer servicing are very similar. So just taking a step back, as we talk today about unstructured content and managing this information in a formal fashion, hopefully we can give you some ideas how to improve your organization going forward. So let me just turn this over to James now. James?
Thanks very much, Vincent. So one of the first things we want to look at when looking at a complex insurance environment is really understanding where you are today, and then from there you can create a plan. So something that we like to talk about is our maturity model within Canon to help us quickly assess where companies are. So on screen you see like 5 pillars down at the bottom left. We have chaos, level 1, really where there's a lot of paper in an organization, a lot of emailing taking place. As we move up the maturity, level 2 is more siloed information and storage, so a lot of shared drives and different repositories. Level 3, we're coming together where it's a unified repository with imaging to enable the digitization of documents. Level 4 is really putting a workflow layer on top of your repository to try and drive process efficiencies. And then finally, what we may term truly enterprise class is that integrated process, compliance, and analytics in everything you do. So that's a level 5. So what I would like to do, if you take a second to look at the maturity model, where do you think today you are on this maturity model, your company, your department? And we'll take a second for those results to come in.
Okay, so we have our second poll question here. We'd love to, again, hear from you. Just take a moment. Would you say you're at level 1, chaos, level 2, siloed, level 3, search and discovery, level 4, process-driven, or level 5, integrated process, or would you say you're just not so sure, and that would be number 6? So we'll just wait a second or two and get the responses tallied. Okay, we'll just wait a moment. Okay, second or two more. Appears as though we have a tie between the siloed, level 2, and the process-driven, level 4. Are you surprised by that, James?
No, not entirely. I think for level 2, silos and storage, it's not a surprise because we have a lot of clients today. You're not alone out there that are struggling to make their way and get management around their content. I know there's some that aren't sure, but really today we work with a lot of clients that are in the silo domain. They have a lot of repositories or different storage areas that they want to consolidate together. And that's all the first step, is really centralizing that information. So thanks for responding. It's always good to get some interaction from the group. So moving on, when we look at this process in the documents, really think about where does all this complexity start. And a lot of it is when the physical documents start to come through your doors into your company, into your departments. So here on screen we have a best-in-class imaging workflow, which you can see involves a lot of steps. One of the key ones to think about is quality control, but also reporting metrics. Within the insurance industry, the regulations, compliance are getting tighter each year, and really with the reporting metrics in place, we can ensure that we're meeting turnaround times, and various SLAs that have been set. Go to the next slide. So the workflow process at the very start of the document coming into your organization has a number of complexities in it itself. Typically, with insurance documents, there's a significant expense for separating documents, particularly in high-volume operations. You can see a figure on screen here of 50% for document preparation and labor alone, just for sorting documents and inserting separator sheets. And the challenge there really is that insurance documents come in all varieties of lengths and types of structure. But, you know, the good news is there's technology to help you with that. So trying to move away from the labor and the manual intervention of entering separator sheets, we can start to use technology to determine structured, semi-structured, and even unstructured documents. That helps cut our operational costs, makes the process more automated. Here on the diagram, you can see in the bottom left that there's structured documents. They're probably easiest to be recognized, semi-structured, and then finally unstructured, which are like documents such as correspondence and letters and so forth. But the good news is, you know, with all these challenges, something that we often talk about is a digital intake center. And what is that? Well, it's really combining your mailroom activities where the documents are coming in and putting under the same roof your imaging operations. There's a number of advantages or benefits of doing this. Firstly, it drives efficiencies. You have cross-training of staff, and you can start to begin to control operational costs as well by having both mailroom and imaging operations under one roof. The other great thing is it establishes a footprint for other digital content that may be coming into your organization, such as emails. So by passing emails through the digital intake center, we ensure a centralized and standardized approach to how all documents are handled, whether it be physical or electronic. So we talked about technology and how it can help. Well, you know, in a recent survey, the Canon Market Survey, we asked about the top challenges that insurance companies have today, and you can see the results on screen. And not surprisingly, technology at 44.2% is one of the major challenges companies have today. So even though technology can be seen as the answer to automate and streamline tasks and activities within your organization, there's also the challenge of implementing it and then continuing to run it and make sure it is up to date. So one of the things that we like to talk about is our managed service offerings. Really today, who's better to manage your capture service than a capture company? What does a managed service look like? Well, today we have support, keeping the services up, keeping the lights on, addressing any issues from day to day. And combining that, we bundle a number of development hours, and that really allows to maximize the investment in your technology. So a lot of organizations implement large technology systems or platforms, but then there's an ongoing need to keep them up to date, develop them, add new document types, look for further efficiencies, and this is where the bundled hours come in. And together with the proactive monitoring and the bundled development hours, we can really enhance capture service and then provide that business agility that maybe internal resources may struggle with. So just to finalize a few points that we've been making, capture process where the documents come into the organization is complex in itself. You know, really you want to focus on what you do best, which is insurance. So with some of the challenges that come along, there's also transactional volumes. During times of the year, maybe seasonal or due to a natural disaster, there may be volume spikes. Complexity of documents, we've already touched on the varying lengths, the difference of structured and unstructured. Tribal knowledge is a key area because although technology can help us a lot in automating and streamlining the process and directing and writing documents, there's also an element of tribal knowledge that's needed to interpret documents in context, particularly those unstructured documents like correspondence. Process control, we mentioned this already, how reporting and monitoring the SLAs is getting more important in this regulatory environment. And then finally, handwriting. A lot of the documents today may be typed or filled out to be scanned. There's still a large portion, particularly those that we see in the Accord forms, that are handwritten, and that brings another set of challenges for recognition. So, with that in mind, on the operations side, you can see the chart on screen on the left. We have reduced operational costs on the vertical axis and then maturity over time on the bottom. And really just to touch on these points, a level 1 organization can often be remote sites utilizing MFDs or multifunctional devices to capture their information, so it's a distributed model. Level 2, the benefits of consolidation and standardization can come with an on-site centralized approach to scanning and imaging. Level 3 is starting to look at that outsourcing to try and drive some of the efficiencies and reduce the operational costs. So where a vendor is actually running the operations on-site with your technology. Taking that a level further, we look at a hybrid model, which we're seeing more and more common. As the documents come in the door, we're actually scanning those, but then sending them up to off-site or to a processing center that's off-site or offshore to utilize the technology and get economies of scale in there as well. And then finally, the truly best in class. That's a real mixture of off-site and offshore. So the technology investment is all with the vendor, and the benefits of the resources that complement that and know-how of the technology to operate it efficiently.
So James, I do see we have a write-in question. I believe it relates to what we're talking about here. What is the best way to assess the improvement opportunities for my department by outsourcing?
That's a great question, Anne-Marie, and I actually have a slide that can help us with that. So if we jump forward just one more slide, please. On screen, you can see the business value assessment. This is something that we work with in Canon to help understand where you are today on the maturity model. The benefit of it is we really bring as a vendor product, technology, domain, and client expertise into your operation. Through the value assessment, we interview the different department leads, heads, VPs, as well as understand what's happening within the day-to-day tasks, and speak to IT about your technology capabilities and also security. So our business value assessment really helps to get things started and put together some estimates or values against where outsourcing could potentially help in your organization and lead to actual value and operational reductions in cost and controlling those costs as well.
Should we step back then to the slide before?
So with that, once you understand where you are and what needs to be done, we can look at the organization and try and simplify it. So on the left-hand side, we have a complex organization. This may be familiar to some of you, information overload, silo departments, poor business agility, unclear accountability. That's quite common in larger insurance organizations. But really, to become a world-class insurance company, you want to focus on your core services. So from a complex organization that's generally slow to respond, if we look at simplifying that organizational structure, that can be enabled through outsourcing with workforce, process automation, even offshore labor, and technology rationalization to enable business growth and allowing you to focus on what you do best. So when we've evaluated it, we came up with a plan, but who do you really want to help you through this process as you try to simplify your organizational structure? Well, really you're looking for a strategic partner. And on screen we see a recent Horses for Sources outsourcing research results. And up in the top blue bar in the middle of the screen, we can see that a lot of clients outsource purely for the operational cost reduction and avoidance. But what also is key and is becoming more common is really having a strategic partner that helps with digital transformation, re-engineering processes, so it's not a one-stop shop, there's a continual transformation. Secondly, the insurance companies today want access to the latest technology, and you want a strategic partner who can bring that to the table. And then finally, the industry specialists and talent. When in the insurance industry, you want to be speaking with a partner who understands your industry and knows it well too. So few things to consider on the slide. Really think about digital transformation, latest technology, and access to industrial specialists as part of that strategic partnership as you move forward. So finally, from me, we heard some ways to basically simplify your insurance operations. We talked about a digital intake center. We mentioned managed services as well. Who better to look after your capture platform than capture specialists. And then we also talked about our outsourcing and how that low complexity work could be taken and moved offsite, offshore in the maturity model we looked at. And then finally, the business value assessment, really the starting step to help you write that business case, to understand the value and added value that a partner can bring. So just for me to finish in this slide before I hand it back to Vince, I wanted to show you a short case study that we have, one of examples of how Canon Business Process Services has helped an insurance client. Really, I want you to focus sort of on the results down in the bottom corner. Out of the gate, we were able to enable reduce operational costs or mitigate risks as well through our outsourcing model using offshore. And at the same time, we were able to take on with time the actual managed services of the IT platform to further drive in efficiencies over and above what the client's IT could today. So I've talked a little bit about the intake of documents up front in the process and the challenges around that and some ways to help simplify it and make it better. But what do you do once the document's digitized and it gets passed further up the workflow? I'd like to turn it back to Vince at this point to tell us a little bit more about advanced case management.
Thank you, James. Let me first of all just kind of help define what we mean by case. Think of the business operations within your organization. If it's claims, we may have a physical electronic file which we collect all the information in order to make a decision. Maybe it's in contract compliance. You may have a physical file, electronic file, where you gather the information, apply workflows and decisions to drive outcomes. So when we talk about case, we're actually thinking about, if you like, consolidating all of that unstructured content and all that data in a manageable format. So the insurance industry today is, when you think of it, is combined with this vast growth of data. James has talked about how one can effectively manage the intake, ingestion, storage of documents and content. Now, of course, content can be much more than paper, information and forms. It could be, as I said earlier, video or audio. It could be blueprints. It could be extensive file formats in many, many situations. Now, Case Manager from IBM is designed to make this more consumable. So given all this vast amounts of structured, unstructured data which we can effectively capture today, and I would imagine that most of you effectively manage in content repositories within your organization, Case Manager is designed to make it much more consumable, accessible to your organization, parties in insurance, or any industry actually, and deliver at the right point in time. And when you can combine this with the work that we do, and think about all of the unpredictable and complex processes that are driven. Unstructured content, interpretation, application of that knowledge from your knowledge workers quite often results in having to drive flexible workflows. So we have managing the data plus managing and delivering workflows to contend with it in our organization today. This is an extract from a Forrester report. I just want to kind of show it to you. Forrester looked at insurance customer needs from a high level. They concluded that, yes, we need a 360-degree view of what is happening within our organization, again at a case level specific. There is technology to help improve the process. And if we can consolidate all of our systems and automate the data gathering, we can be much more effective. IBM Case Manager is designed to bring together the people, the content, apply the workflows and analytics to make the best decisions, and of course can be delivered via cloud and of course with mobile capabilities. You see, not just think about claims, but there are many parts of your organization, as I mentioned earlier: contract management, compliance issues, vendor management, policy servicing, audit, compliance, audit processing. These are many ways a lot of our customers today are employing IBM Case Manager to manage these processes that are dependent upon unstructured content. If you think of business content today, as I said, it can be in video, audio, podcasts, social media, blogs, podcasts, email, chats, and the list can go on. How can we effectively manage this in our organization? Imagine if your workflow, decision, and complex transactions or business processes required of all these types of business content can help support a knowledge worker. So if there was a platform available to help you be more effective, then hopefully this could be one idea. IBM Case Manager brings all this together in a 360-degree view, giving the employee or the adjuster, the examiner, the underwriter, the customer service rep, the ability to interact and view the entire view of the case in this case. As I say, it could be claims, it could be policy servicing, and so forth. So knowledge workers can now make decisions based on the right data at the right time. IBM conducted a recent Institute for Business Value assessment for the industry, across all industries, and executives found in our report that 65% of them felt that investing further into analytics was critical to their organization. But 30% of the respondents also indicated that the quality of the data they capture, the completeness of the data they capture, was insufficient to meet their needs. So possibly, as you think about managing unstructured content in a case format, this could be one approach for you. So just to summarize, IBM Case Manager brings together workflows, rules, and processes. Think about three key areas. It helps you activate through workflow, processes, and rules. We can help engage through improved collaboration between the people and the processes. And finally, with embedded analytics, provide you better insight into your organization, or in this particular case, a case, or a series of cases across your organization. Just quickly, just to recap on the analytics, there are three real components here. You know, obviously, content analytics, the ingestion, understanding of the information in an unstructured document. Case analytics, if you like, the real-time metric of where we are in this in the progression of this particular case. And again, think of case as any physical electronic file that we manage with a knowledge worker within our organization to make the right decisions. And finally, if one can add some intelligent investigative analysis, predictive analysis, we can take this a step further. And I'll be remiss not to acknowledge the fact that managing a case within your office is ideal, but in today's environment, being able to manage and access case information mobile is very critical. For example, many of our customers are using IBM Case Manager to complement some of the core operations of core systems. In this particular example, they're using Case Manager to support the SIU fraud fraud activities and capabilities within their organization. Many insurance companies, particularly larger ones, have separate SIU units that work in tandem with and parallel to the claims organization. This particular customer needed to develop and employ a much more effective supplemental solution to manage claims fraud. As I say, it involves Case Manager, and in this component we also added predictive analytics, which helps predict likelihood of fraud and outcomes. And just to summarize, again, IBM, we are a leader in the enterprise content management field. Our discussion today, James and I, were basically focused on content, enterprise content. A Case Manager is not your repository of content, but think of Case Manager as your solution tool to effectively manage all that unstructured data, combined with workflows, business rules, analytics to drive the right outcome. So let me just turn this back over to James for some final comments.
Thanks, Vincent. So we talked at the start around imaging and intake and how to simplify operations, but that can continue, as Vincent was saying, further up into the different departments in the workflow, whether that be new business, policy changes, or claims processing. By using Canon Business Process Services, you can actually help bring down and reduce operational costs. Just to finish, Canon Business Process Services are a subsidiary of Canon USA, if you don't know us. The services that we offer today range from business process outsourcing, document processing, office services, facilities management, and even discovery services as well. We are one top 100 IAOP global outsourcing leader for the last 9 years, and that's, you can also see on screen some of the other services specific to the insurance industry that we offer our clients today. With that, I'd like to hand it back to Anne-Marie to see if we have any questions.
So that wraps up our program for today. We are interested in any questions from the audience. Just go ahead and write them in the chat box there, and we'd like to address them for you. Okay, well, I do see we have one question sitting there for us. Let's see, is IBM Case Manager a BPM tool? Vince, I imagine that's for you.
Must be. Well, we get that question quite often. I'm going to answer that with a question. So, what is it you're trying to accomplish or manage within your organization? Are the processes, the workflows, and outcomes driven primarily by unstructured content, such as documents? Are the decisions and outcomes determined by knowledge workers based on that information and how they interpret it? Are some of those decisions and outcomes different? In other words, are they unpredictable? As I mentioned earlier, let's take a claims example. An examiner or adjuster may be working through a claim and based on new information, now must take a different workflow path to resolve that issue. It could be an underwriting situation. A new piece of business comes in submission, and although everything may be aligned, if you like, and straightforward and structured, there may be a piece of information that an underwriter uncovers that may take him or her down a different path. I guess the point I'm saying is, if it's unstructured, if it's content-centric, then IBM Case Manager most likely is the solution for you. Now, how is this different from BPM? BPM focuses on, obviously, process improvement, structured data, and governance. The two are complementary, but the real answer to the question is, what is it that I'm trying to accomplish in my organization, and what is the best tool to do that? Hopefully that answers the question. If not, just pop back in with another question and we'll see if we can tackle it. Okay, well, thank you, Vince. I do see we have a second one here. I imagine this one is for Canon. How long does a typical implementation take?
It's a good question, and it varies from site to site, the number of offices that may be involved in it, if it's a national rollout, but it can be as short as 4 to 6 weeks to take on operations for our clients today. One of the things I would like to say is that the job just doesn't finish there. As a true outsourcing provider, if we're doing our job right, there's a continual transition through the relationship with that partner. So even when operations are up and running early in the relationship, even after that, there's a continual focus from the outsource provider to transform, to digitize, to enhance the operations on-site and off-site. So it's a never-ending cycle for us.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you, James. Thank you, Vince. That concludes today's presentation. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We hope you found today's insights helpful. If you have any additional questions for Vince or James, or would like to learn more about Canon Business Process Services and how we are helping other companies develop and implement and optimize document workflow, please contact us directly at the email address on your screen. If you're interested in the work IBM is doing, please see Vince's contact information there. And one other note, as you leave us today, you will see a 3-question survey. We would like to hear from you and get your feedback, so please take a moment to complete that survey. And thank you again. Thank you, my presenters, and thank you, our audience today, and have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.